Hello everyone, this is your host, Diedrich Davis. Coming up next is a new episode of Black Nerds Matter. On this show we get real experiences, thoughts, and advice from different black professionals in the world of STEM. Stay tuned at WMNF Radio for more. Come for the science, stay for the nerds. Welcome to the inaugural episode of Black Nerds Matter. I'm your host, Diedrich Davis. On our first episode, we are joined by Jada Alexander. She's a marine ecologist, educator, and student at UC Santa Barbara. How you doing today, Jada?
I'm doing pretty great. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So is your first time on the radio, second time? How many times have you done something like this?
This is my second time being on the radio.
Okay, so you're a pro.
No.
Okay.
We'll see.
So I don't have to tell you how to do anything, right? Okay, so enough jibber jabber. Let's get straight into it. Jada, where are you from?
I am from California, if you cannot tell by my voice. I'm from Southern California, specifically Oceanside, and I grew up a little bit inland, so I was like an hour and a half away from the water.
Okay. I know you have a different familial background than a lot of like black people born in the U.S. Would you like to talk about your family or your nationality, anything like that?
Yeah, so my mother and her family are majorly from Texas and California. And my dad's half of the family is from the Caribbean, specifically the small island called Carriacou. So I'm African-American and West Indian.
So for those of you who don't know, Carriacou is part of Grenada, and it's in the West Indies. So what kind of work do you do?
So I do a lot of different work, honestly. So I kind of started my entire journey really focusing on education. And then from the network that I created from doing educational ocean work, then I met people that were doing marine science. And so from there, I got really interested in marine ecology. And then I was just doing tropical marine ecology benthic research. And I've been having a lot of fun doing that. And I've been continuing my journey with education as well.
Okay, so speak about benthic. What does that mean? So for people that are listening or first-time listeners or not into science like me and you, I know we're both scientists by trade, but for someone like your mother or your father, someone that's not interested in science, what would you explain benthic ecology as?
Okay, so I might need a little help with this definition, but my description of benthic ecology would be the stuff that you see kind of like on the ocean floor. So when you look at the bottom, you see coral, you see algae, you see all of the organisms around those as well. Those are all in the benthic region.
So yeah, pretty much benthic stuff. You see in stingrays on the ground, things like that, running around on the bottom, anything playing around in the sand, that's benthic. Yeah, I'm glad you explained that really well. Almost like you do this for a living, huh?
Okay, whatever.
So next thing I was really wondering about is, so you like the water, and I know we both like water. We're both marine biologists, but what got you in the water particularly?
It was actually really interesting. My brother tried out for the water polo team in high school, and he started playing water polo, and he was super good at it. And my mom suggested that I try out, so I tried out for the girls' water polo team. And oh my gosh, it was painful. It was really hard. I had never been like a really strong swimmer. Like I did swimming lessons when I was younger and I loved to play in the ocean. But as far as like swimming for an hour straight without breaks, it was pretty difficult. But once I really got into the routine of it, I ended up falling in love with water polo. And so I did that for 4 years of high school and I was infatuated with the sport. The only thing that was kind of negative about my experience with water polo was I was the only Black girl for probably in the entire region. So that was pretty unfortunate and it made for a really interesting high school experience. But from falling in love with water polo, I was friends with people that really loved to do ocean sports. And I was introduced to surfing. And I started to actually commute like an hour and a half out, maybe once a week to go surfing. And from that, I taught myself how to surf. And then eventually I moved to UC Santa Barbara for college. And there I became a surf coach. I developed my surfing so much more while I was there. And then from there, I started doing marine ecology work and scuba diving, and pretty much the rest is history.
Okay, so you talked about your experience being a black girl doing water polo. Could you explain water polo for people out there? Because I didn't know until I met you what it was at all.
Yeah, it's not that popular of a sport. It's honestly extremely aggressive. And so water polo is played in a pool. And basically you have two cages, one cage at each end of the pool, and you have two teams. And they're going against each other to basically make a goal with a ball. So it's like a mix of football, soccer, and basketball.
Synchronized swimming?
No. That'd be cute. Halftime show. But yeah, so that is water polo, but it is definitely an extremely aggressive sport.
So the thing I'm gonna kind of link this to your career and the stuff you're doing. So I'm sure being the only black person doing that was isolating at times and made you feel like the odd man out, and just in general, just being there. And have you ever felt like that during the work you do, like being like one of the only black person, especially a black woman, doing this kind of stuff and being in these spaces that aren't typically like available or open to people that look like you and sound like you and talk like you? Were you willing to go into anything like that?
Yeah. Oh my God, guys, let me tell you. So when I was playing water polo, I was getting ready for a game. You know, I'm like, I have my pregame nerves, but I'm really excited. And I hear this parent from the audience, and this guy talking to one of my teammates said, "What is the N-word doing in the pool?" And
Wow.
It like just completely shot my mood. And I didn't even know what to do. I didn't know how to act.
You ain't pelt a ball at his head or try to drown him or nothing like that?
I wish at this point. So I had so many experiences like that. And being in water polo, you wear a swim cap, right? I have
your hair.
The thickest natural hair you could possibly think of. And so that means that my hair in a cap look much different than everybody else's. And from coaches to teachers to teammates, it was like I was made fun of all the time. And honestly, I became extremely fed up with it. And I ended up kind of just removing myself, because people that were saying those things, it's like, I don't want you in my life. So I kind of ended up isolating myself a little bit, because I went to a decently racist high school, unfortunately, and the town wasn't very friendly either.
The headphones work with your hair, just so you know.
Oh, thank God. But as far as like living in a very predominantly white area, playing predominantly white sports, basically when I go to a black area, they're like, "Oh, like you're like a little white kid," and I'm like, I'm a dark-skinned black girl. Like, what do you mean? And it's just really interesting, because sometimes, you know, doing things that people deem are not for black people, you get a little bit isolated, because you don't want to be in the group with all the white people, but then you also don't want to be in the group, or you're not accepted in either group, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
And so for you guys that don't know much about my backstory either, I grew up in predominantly white areas too, and that's what got me into being a scientist and ecologist and whatnot, because in these areas when I lived at, it wasn't crazy if people wanted to be scientists and want to do different things. And my parents supported me through wanting to be a scientist. So to what she's speaking about, when it's really difficult to fit in with people that look like you versus people that act like you, it's like a very different line. You can be working with white people that want to do the stuff you do, but they're like, "Oh, you're black. Well, we don't really hang out with you." You want to hang out with black people that look like you and share your same values and where you're from. But they're like, "You don't really talk like us. You're not really accepted." And that's something that's faced a lot by people like us. And the whole reason I made this podcast is so that other people like us can see that there's people like them that are interested in the water and want to do things that are called white people stuff. Like, I'm sure you heard your mama and dad say, "Oh, don't do that. That's that white people stuff." We do white people stuff. That's what we do. We make it black people stuff. And our message today and for the rest of these episodes is that we can all do this. There's no race attached to the event, the career you have, or the activities you participate in, or even just the things you love or the people you love and what you want to do. It's all because you want to do it. No race or social status or anything like that can stop you from doing what you want. But off my soapbox, let's get back into our guest and her today. Don't want to forget about her. So you were talking some about dealing with that racism. So what about that in research settings? Because so some more background. Me and her met in French Polynesia, Maria, and did research. She did research for UC Santa Barbara. I did research for UCLA, and we both researched in these two different places. So tell me about how you were researching, how your research and work relationship was in Maria.
Yeah, so it was really interesting, actually. So I'm an environmental studies major at UCSB, so usually I'm the only Black person in the room, very unfortunately. But I applied to a NSF-funded RU for doing research in Maria with UCLA. And that program was a program called the Diversity Project. And I basically went to Maria with a bunch of Black people. And it was one of the best introductions to marine science ever, because I didn't think I was ever going to be a marine scientist. I didn't even consider that as an opportunity for me, even though I had such infatuation with the outdoors and with education and with learning about things and my curiosity. And yet that was never a path that I saw for myself. And I think that was majorly because I didn't know anybody that did that. I didn't see myself in any people that were, I guess, like high up there doing that. So I didn't really think it was open to me, which is unfortunate, but it's true. So going to Maria with a bunch of people that looked like me, that loved doing what I was doing, was one of the best feelings that I've ever had. And it's been so motivating for me to continue in this path that may be difficult, but it's very worth it, because I want to be able to bring community like that to people down the line as well.
I love that. So one thing I want to tell our listeners about is NSF-RU is it's a program that undergraduates get in college. You get paid $6,000, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the institution, and they pay for you to travel to the institution and back from your home, and they feed you, give you a place to stay, and you get to do work for them for $6,000. And it's an opportunity I want more people to know about, because they're always looking for underrepresented groups. Like, you get priority for being a Black, Latino, any POC type of person. So it's like very much our type of people need to get into these programs, and they're really good for building your career, getting your connections, and just doing different things that you love, especially in the world of science. So one thing about the Diversity Project is me and her had very different experiences. I loved the people I worked with, and she didn't love the people she worked with, and they're both Black, and that's just part of the Black experiences. You meet people, Black people you like, Black people you don't like, and then there's times you're like, do I stick by them because they're Black, or do I not because they annoy me? And me and her both have different perspectives on this, and I want Jada to tell us more about how she felt about her cohort of scientists versus how I felt about my cohort of scientists.
So I honestly love my cohort. I do love them. When we were in Maria, like, there's people that are very uncomfortable. You know, like you're in a field station. You're kind of eating whatever's given to you. You know, we have communal showers, all of these things. And, you know, you might think, oh, well, you guys are on an island. But all of these people were used to the normal, like, American luxuries of life, being able to go to the store whenever you want to, being able to have a hot shower when you want to, having sheets and not having mosquito bites and rats and all that stuff. And so
unless you're from the South and you don't have anything at all, then you might be used to that.
Yeah. Basically, so some people in my cohort ended up being very negative, and that was something that was really difficult for me to be around, because I typically surround myself with people that are regularly positive. So I found that it was really difficult for me to be in those situations. And honestly, being a Black girl from California, I talk like a Californian, and I was made fun of that so much. I was made fun of for that. I'm a dark-skinned woman. I was made fun of for the color of my skin. I was made fun of for my hair. And I was made fun of by Black people. And that was extremely hurtful to me. And it was very isolating. And I had, I had friends that I am still friends with that I love so much that were there to support me. But as far as, looking to be supported and thinking that it's going to be a wonderful experience because you finally get to be around people that look like you, sometimes it can be disappointing. And then hi. I think there's just a little bit of a trade-off. Like, you have to come in with no expectations. And I feel like you just have to be grateful for what you are getting. Because from that experience, yes, I was pretty hurt, but honestly, I came out with a bunch of friends that I will have for the rest of my life, which I'm so grateful for, and endless opportunities. And yes, while some experiences like that can be very uncomfortable, being uncomfortable is always worth it because it means that you're growing.
That's just a wonderful statement from you. I remember part of the reason I was really excited for the diversity project was because I had done an RU at Duke University, and it was a good experience, great for networking and whatnot. But it was just my day-to-day life being with people that I didn't know that well, who didn't look like me, didn't sound like me. It was extremely, extremely, extremely just frustrating day in and day out when just you don't fit in and you're trying your hardest and you want to talk to people, you want to make friends that are not letting you in because they don't see the value in you that others do. And when I went to TDP, my group, I enjoyed them. I loved them. We loved each other. People have spots where they don't like each other from time to time, but for the most of the part, we enjoyed each other, loved talking to each other. We had a native Polynesian in our group, and we all loved him, and we all just had a great time. So hearing her experience compared to mine was very jarring, because I was like, man, I love my people. And she's like, oh, well, I'm getting ridiculed by my so-called colleagues that look like me the same way the white man who was talking about me in the pool when I'm playing water polo is. And it's just like, that's extremely disheartening. And I want to see Black people come more together and be supporting each other in these things when they feel uncomfortable instead of tearing each other down, because I'm sure they were all uncomfortable and they were just kind of attacking each other. And it's almost like we can't pull each other apart before, the system pulls us apart. We have to be there for each other during this kind of stuff. And I'm glad that I got that experience, and I'm sad that you didn't. And so that next summer, I went, the summer after she was in TDP in Maria, I went there, and I was with my cohort. And so she came back another year and worked with UC Santa Barbara. And if you'd like to tell us more about UC Santa Barbara, how it was working with the lab there compared to TDP.
Yes. So the following year, I came back to Maria with my lab at UCSB, and I was extremely excited. I was supposed to be working on a research project with a primary school, and we were going to be doing a collaborative research project with the kids there and just kind of figure out what they're interested in and use our knowledge to so basically going back to Maria with UCSB I was very excited for it. I was extremely excited, and I was going to be doing my own research project pretty much. And so I got there, and I did not feel welcome at all. It was extremely unfortunate. I kind of just had to make space for myself and fun for myself a bit. And, I'm used to doing that. So it was nothing that I'm not used to already. But I guess
adapt. You're a Black woman. You got to adapt all the time. Spaces aren't made for you. You have to make the space for yourself. So I'm sure it's like another Tuesday. For
real. Very typical. But so I ended up just having to make space for myself and make myself comfortable. And I had friends that were in TDP, people that were in Diedrich's cohort. And so I would spend time with them because I love them. They're so sweet. They're funny. They're very driven. And I just had such a wonderful time with them. And so I spent so much time with them on the island. And I ended up having a less than positive experience. I don't know. I don't want to go too much into it, but basically being a Black woman with UCSB, which is predominantly white, it didn't feel extremely comfortable. And I felt like I was being ridiculed so much. And I feel like I don't think that I was being treated the same as other people, unfortunately.
So knowing that things were unfair, not feeling left out, feeling like you weren't enjoying yourself, how did that affect your mental health? Because I just know that, especially in the Black community, mental health is like this taboo thing. Oh, we don't go to therapy. We don't do that. We don't have ADHD. You just bad and don't know how to listen. That's why, I'm using my father's voice because that's how my daddy was. And things like that. I'm just wondering, how did that weigh on your mental health to deal with those different things?
Yeah, it was kind of unfortunate. It went a little bit downhill for a second. I am a person that copes with depression, and so being on the island, having all these different experiences, it just really like bogs you down, unfortunately. Like I was working all the time. I was working so much, and let's say I went in to eat lunch for an hour, I would be ridiculed, like, well, where were you? And so that it kind of made me feel like I wasn't doing enough and that I was the problem, even though I wasn't. And I think that on field stations in particular, it is such it's like a very toxic work environment. You are expected to be working all of the time. You get no days off pretty much. Like people can be there for 3 months and not have a single day off. And that's what's expected of you. You're expected to work your butt off, work yourself off till you have nothing left. And that is not how anybody should have to work, ever.
And so what about the people that think that people like us, Black people, should have to work extra to have that opportunity and we should be lucky just to be there?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We work hard enough just in our day-to-day lives. There's no reason why we should have to work 2 times harder than any person just because of the color of our skin. Not saying that we don't, but people should not use that against us to expect us to be doing more work.
And that we should be used to working as hard because we're Black and they don't give us stuff anyways. Yeah, and that's the caveat you get when you work in some of these spaces. People expect you to be a hard worker and kind of a good old boy and to do what they say because you're just happy to be there, and other people are just that feel privileged and feel that they belong there don't have to work as hard, and you can pick up the slack for them, and then it's just bad for you because you're working hard and people are like, oh, how come you're not working? And it's just, that's how it can be in different spaces when people don't respect who you are and value you as the person and for the work that you do. And so one thing talk about is like work-life balance. So with TDP, when I was working with them, I had great work-life balance. I was able to go and relax, go play the game, sit in my hammock, go swimming, do whatever I want to do. How was your work-life balance with Santa Barbara compared to UCLA?
My work-life balance with UCLA was 20 times better than my work-life balance with UCSB because I was completely in charge of my own schedule. And honestly, when I went with UCSB, I didn't think that anyone was going to be in charge of my schedule because that wasn't a discussion that we previously had before me being on the island. But I was basically expected to be working on my own stuff and somebody else's stuff all the time and pretty much not have any time for myself. And unfortunately, I struggle with some physical health issues. And so when I don't take care of myself enough, like if I'm sleeping less than I need, or if I'm extremely stressed, or if I'm overworking my body, if I don't listen to my body will shut down for me without giving me a choice.
No, you're done. Hey, we worked enough today. You're done. Yeah. And it's like, how do you explain that to an advisor that expects you to work 400 times? Hey, my body doesn't want to work. Okay, well, you better get your body out there and work. And it's like, what is she supposed to do? And you keep going. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you keep going.
No, you're good. So I actually ended up getting sick on the island. I ended up getting decently sick. And even though I was feeling sick, I felt like I had to work. I had to work at least 6 hours, per day, because even though I was sick, they expected me to work. They didn't expect me to take days off. And it is an extremely unfortunate situation, because then I just got sicker, and then I felt like crap for longer, and it made me feel extremely disposable. Like, they don't really care about me or what I'm dealing with or my health. It's very much like, get this science done. We're paying for your stay here now.
Yeah, and that's and the thing I love about doing RUs and doing these things is almost like you're getting like your summer vacation, but you're getting to work and be somewhere that you enjoy being. So it's like when you go into these places and they expect you to work your tail off, it's like you're robbing me of enjoying where I am. I'm on a beautiful island in the middle Pacific. I'm in French Polynesia. Like, reason people know French Polynesia is because of Tahiti, but I'm on like the other island. I'm seeing whales, I'm seeing sharks, I'm seeing dolphins and all these different things, trying this new food in this different place. But it's like when I'm forced to work hard, not even forced to work hard, but work unfairly, I can't even enjoy what I'm doing. So for some clarity, me and Jada were friends on the island, and we would hang out and have a good time together, get dinner, things like that. And people in her that she worked with would tell her superiors, "Hey, why are you hanging out with him? Is that why you're not doing your work?" And it's like, "Oh, can I not have dinner? Can I not have a friend? Can I not do what I want to do?" And it's very like, tell them more about how you felt about that.
No work-life balance at all. You wake up, you're expected to work. Even when it's nighttime, I would get up, I would take a shower. I would put on my clothes, and I would go right back out to the water tables, which is where we keep the corals, and I would continue doing science. And I was expected to do that. It could be 7:30 at night, and I was expected to be out there. And if I wasn't, I would feel really crappy about it, even if I was out there for, a 10-hour work day. And so sometimes I just realized, like, hey, I need this time, and I recognize that I feel terrible. Like, my body feels terrible. I don't feel motivated. I'm not happy. And so I started to take more time for myself. And, so maybe, I would take an hour for breakfast and to allow me to get ready, and, maybe journal a little bit before I start my day. And I was criticized for that, unfortunately. And I think that a really important discussion that people should have is how to set your boundaries. That is something that I really struggle with, setting my boundaries, especially with people that are my superiors. And I've gotten a lot better at it, because unfortunately, like, I have driven my body into the ground. Like, for a little bit of context, I was in the hospital like 4 times one year because I worked myself that hard. And your body can't keep up with that, and it shouldn't have to. The work will get done. You don't need to be there 24 hours in a day. There's 24 hours in a day. You do not need to spend 15 of those hours at work. You have a personal life. You might have a family. You might have, mental health to deal with. You maybe want to exercise. You want to eat your meals. Maybe you even have a hobby, God forbid. You want to play games, or you want to do a puzzle or anything. And that needs to be okay. And if you need to tell somebody, hey, actually, I'm done with work at 6 and I'm refusing to work after that, that's something that is really difficult to do with somebody that is your superior, but it is so essential, because if you feel like you're hating the work that you're doing because you're being overworked, you're not going to be providing them adequate work at all. And you're going to feel like you're robbing yourself. You're going to be unhappy. So nobody's winning. So I feel like the best thing to do is set your boundaries. But again, it is extremely difficult. And I would love to hear more about your experience about that, actually.
How dare you want to be a person? How dare you want to enjoy your life, Jada? You don't want to work? We paying for you to come here.
For real.
Jeez. But so for me, when I was working at Duke, I had to set my boundaries with my mentor. So for me, I think setting boundaries is extremely important. I'm a person that's very much like I like to let people know where I stand with them or when they stand with me and different things. And if I had any advice for anybody like that, you have to ask people, what do you expect from me, like day in and day out? What do you want me to do? What do you need? Because I don't want to be held responsible for the idea of me you have in your head. I'm not responsible for your fantasy of me as a worker. You need to tell me what you need me to be done. So if you need me to work this hour and this hour, that's fine. But we need to agree on, hey, I'm going to be working this time and this time. I'm off this time. Not, oh, well, I thought you'd be working. No, you didn't tell me I needed to work. And that's one thing that I was sharing with Jada even during the time when she was there is that, hey, tell them what you need and what you want to do. And granted, she listened to me a lot, but they weren't giving to her because they're so used to her doing whatever they said. When she had something to say later on, they were like, but you've been doing this the whole time and you were fine this whole time. Why is it a problem now? And that's why I think it's really important to set those boundaries first, because once somebody knows you'll do anything for them, they're going to be real upset when you take that from them. If you never let them have that power over you in the first place, they can never use it against you. And that's something I just really want people to understand, is that boundaries are really important, because people will work you to the bone if they think that you are valuable to them in a sense, whether that's work, family, friends. If you want to do something for somebody every time and you never let them know that it's not okay, they'll do it forever, because how can they know? Some people just don't have the empathy or the ability to see that. Some people do. A lot of people should be able to do that, but that's not the case. And you have to be an advocate for yourself.
Absolutely. And I think that honestly, people respect you so much more when you set your boundaries as well. Like, if you think about someone that tells you, hey, I'm not working after 6 versus somebody that's a pushover and you know you can tell them pretty much whatever, you're going to have a lot more respect for one person's time than the other.
Also, don't work for free, y'all. Volunteering is good, but just working for free, somebody wants you to do extra stuff and it's not in your job description, you're not getting paid next year to do it, don't do it. Say, I don't get paid to scrub these buckets. I get paid to do the research right here. Can you take this to my car? I don't get paid to do that. I get paid to do this research. And that's just something that's really important, because when you start doing favors and trying to help out and trying to be nice, people can use that against you, especially in a quick paced work environment like a field station. You can end up doing everybody's job and not even getting your own stuff done. And then if you tell your superior, hey, I was helping out so-and-so, okay, well, your thing's not done. Why's your thing not done? You're not supposed to help them. You're supposed to be doing my thing I told you to do. And that can land you in hot water. And I'm sure you can understand that kind of situation. She's rolling her eyes right now. You guys can't see it, but she's like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. So another thing, so with all that, you being an advocate for mental health, do you want to talk more about that? Because I know it's just such a taboo thing for our community. And I just really want more people to understand that counseling, things like that, depression, are very real things for everybody. It's not a made up thing for white people. It's a thing that all people deal with at some point in time. Just because we hide it, kick it on the rug, doesn't mean it's not there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have been reading a lot about mental health, and specifically mental health in the Black community. I think that a lot of times Black people say that's a white people thing, but Black people have been through so much trauma, time and time again, every day. And yeah, we might not be in, the Jim Crow era right now, but that doesn't mean that we don't experience things that negatively affect us psychologically. And, unfortunately, a lot of Black people have unrecognized issues that they don't. And it's like when you take something like that into account, you're able to take care of yourself. You're able to go to therapy. You're able to take care of yourself in a way that allows you to better enjoy your life. So I think that mental health is a very important conversation to be having, because it's healing. It is extremely healing. And when you feel like you're not the only one that experiences that, you feel so much better about it too.
When the shame goes away, it makes you able to better not feel sorry for yourself, but understand your own emotions. Because for me, I had a traumatic event happen to me when I was a child, and involving me and my father. And that bothered me for some time, and I ended up having to go to therapy for it. Once I got older, I didn't know how it affected me until I got older. And I went to and talked to some different people about it, and even had conversations with my mom and my dad about it. And I love them both very much. And it was just great to hear that and talk to them and talk to different people and realize, okay, me being sad about this and crying about this, I'm not weak. I'm not like like black men, we ain't got to be all super tough. It's okay to cry. It's okay to, it's okay to dress up with your girl and let your girl put makeup on you or put fingernail polish on you. So we don't have to be tough. We can get our eyebrows done. We can take care of ourselves. We don't have to be gruff and tough and whatever. And for me, that was a really big thing. It let me be soft and be like a sweet man and be a nice guy. And for me, I think that's super important for black men here. We don't have to be tough and hard and stuff. I know we see things like, music videos and whatever, but we can have a nice side and be that. We don't have to be the tough, rambunctious black guy. And I just think it's super important to understand that therapy and seeing what's wrong with yourself mentally and emotionally, things like that, can be really important and really beneficial for anyone, regardless of color, age, size, shape, whatever. And it's just a really important point I want to get across today.
I guess another thing about mental health that is really important to recognize is that it impacts your physical health. Your body is tied to your mind, and that is completely undeniable. And I've actually been learning a lot about how if you are having really hard situations in your life and you're not taking care of them. Maybe you're an avoidant person. I'm a very avoidant person, so I love to push things under the rug and not think about them for a few years until I have to. But that increases your stress and it decreases your immune system, and that makes you more susceptible to disease. And, that is very, very important to take care of because you don't know how it's going to affect you down the line. Maybe you don't see the effects right now, but it's very important to be proactive so that we can put our best foot forward and so that we can be there for our families and to pursue the things that we want to pursue.
So since we're talking about mental health, Michelle, going into it, how was that in the field? How'd you cope with that in the field?
Did I cope with it?
Or how would you like to cope with it in the future, if that's better?
Yeah. I did just say I definitely pushed things under the rug. So I pushed everything under the rug while I was there. But I guess how I think it would be positive when you're in the field or just when you're in any situation, honestly, having a support system, having people that you trust, who have your back and who you don't feel bad talking about something that is hard to talk about with. After you talk to this person about something that's difficult, that's really close to your heart, you don't feel embarrassed. You don't feel like you burden them. That is very important to have. So having a good support system is one. 2, making sure that you're taking care of yourself physically is very important, like doing exercise every day. Personally, as a marine scientist, when you're doing work in the field, it's pretty physically exhausting. But I found that it was extremely beneficial for me to get off of the station and go for a run because it allows me to see new things. It allows me to clear my head. And it was intentional time that I was putting into myself. It wasn't unintentional workout time from my work day. And then another thing that I find extremely beneficial is journaling. Journaling your thoughts. Journaling, not even having a point. You don't have to have a prompt. Just write down what you're thinking. If you're upset, if you're happy, I promise you it's game changing. It is extremely game changing. It's very, very cool. And then after that, I would just say setting your boundaries, making sure that your needs are met. You're extremely important. Other people are important. The science is important, but ultimately you are important. You have to watch your own back because other people are not going to watch it for you.
And I love that because that's very true. You have to be your own biggest advocate and your own cheerleader, as my mom would say. But one thing I did to keep my mental health right in Maria was I had my own hammock. Like Jada's seen it. Like everybody on the island knew about it. I'm in there like chilling, playing Pokemon on my. I'm a nerd. I said it was Black Nerds Matter. That's why we getting into this. But yeah, I was playing my Pokemon. I'm looking at the water, the waves crashing. We got like dogs on the station, all that kind of cool stuff. So I'm having a good time. Everybody in the house be mad at each other hot because we ain't got no air conditioning. They in there man, I can't believe this person said this, that. And they're like, how are you so calm? I'm like, oh, well, I'm outside like 80% of the time relaxing. And to me, that was an escape that I needed. And I just think that in any situation, any workplace, or any place that you have in life, you need to have an escape and somewhere to go. My escape was my big red hammock. I had had it for 3 or 4 years. And I'm like, man, I wasted that money. I bought that thing and I've never used it. I used it more in that one summer than I did than any other time. And I was like, man, this was the best purchase of my life. It just kept me sane. And I advise everyone, hey, man, find your red hammock. You need that. Find your switch. Find something to play on. Find something that makes you happy, that can help you calm down after a long, stressful day. Because if you don't, and you don't take the time to decompress and to get your mind right, that stuff can build up, and you go back to work every day more and more fed up and more upset, and you get to the point where you're like, man, I hate doing this and whatever. You got to take time for yourself first. And once you take care of yourself, then you'll see the results and you'll be able to do better work. The times I've done the most impressive things in my life and the things I'm most proud of were times I was happy. And I just think that speaks volumes for anyone doing what they do. So tell me, what do you think about that? How has your work been times when you've been stressed versus not stressed? And have you noticed a difference in productivity versus you being extremely stressed and versus you having enough time for yourself?
I feel like when you're stressed, you don't even feel like a person. You don't understand what's happening. There's time passing. It's like you're playing a game of how fast you can get things done without even being conscious about what you're doing. And so I just think life has been so much better for me when I'm not stressed. Like personally, I went extremely hard into research the past like 2.5 years, and the past, 5 months, I've taken a break from research just because I felt like I needed it and I have to put myself first right now. And living life without stress, I still have some stressors, of course, but it makes you feel so much more free, so much more present. You feel like you have time to give yourself what you truly need, to think about what you need in the first place. Because when you're stressed, you don't even think about what you might need. But also you're able to be a better person for other people. Those people that you care about, that you want to be there for, you can't be there for them when you're stressed like that. You can't even be there for yourself. So I just like taking care of yourself during times when you're, exposed to a lot of stress or even not is very, very crucial, because time will fly if you do not, if you don't take care of yourself in that way.
Hey, it's valid, very valid to take a break. I know we very much Black people have this, this grind culture, and you got to get it, you got to get it, you got to get it. No, you ain't always got to get it. For real, sometimes it's really good to taking a rest and having a break. That's progress too. If you've done something, you can take a break to look back at all you've done. It's very beneficial for you, because you're like, man, I'm doing great. Because when you're just worrying about what you haven't done and what you need to do, then you don't have time to look. And how people say stop and smell roses. You got to do that to be happy with yourself and feel fulfilled in your career and what you do. And so we've been talking somewhat about diversity and different things in the field, not seeing a lot of Black people in science, particularly marine science. What would you do, Jada, to increase the amount of little Black girls and little Black boys like us doing what we love? Because, me and you are pretty good at it. I'm sure there's plenty of kids like us out there that would love to do what we do, because I think our lives are pretty fun.
Yeah, I would too, honestly. So I would say, if I were to put my passion into a sentence, I love the relationship between people and nature. And that has always been extremely interesting for me as somebody that found such a deep connection with the ocean, because it provided me with so much solace, and it was so comfortable for me in a place that was safe and that was fun. And so many people of color in general do not get the opportunity to have that experience, whether it's because of, financial reasons, or maybe it's time constraints, or maybe, you have a lot of responsibilities. Maybe you feel ashamed to those things because it's talked about as a white people thing. And nature is not a white people thing at all. That's an everybody thing. And just because we've been taught that doesn't mean that we have to continue to live that way. And so I would say that my passion is making sure that Black people feel connected and safe within nature, and that they have the opportunity to experience it and not feel ashamed about it, be able to play and to just enjoy what's happening around them without feeling guilty. Because I am a Black woman, I'm a water woman, and I am a surf coach, and I work specifically for this organization that's based in Central Coast, California, and it's called the Sea League, and it's an organization that is increasing diversity in ocean sports. And it's been running for about three or 4 years, and I was one of the first people that was hired, and I have loved it so much because I get to work with boys and girls that are people of color, the little Black girls, and it completely fills my heart, and it makes me feel so fulfilled. And that's really what I want to do, because these kids can come to you and feel, they don't feel safe. They don't feel comfortable. They don't feel like they belong. They feel embarrassed because they don't know how to do surfing. They don't know how to surf, so they're embarrassed to try. And I think that we all need to do what we can to make sure that one another feels comfortable doing the uncomfortable, which is trying it out, because it's extremely important. And, the thing that I was getting to earlier, the thing that I learned recently, you might think surfing is a very white sport. It is very white dominated, right? So my friend, who is also a scientist, she was talking to her mom about how I surf and how I'm a surf coach. And she was like, oh my gosh, her and those white people. And I've been reading this book. I think it's about the history of surfing. And the first place that surfing was ever recorded, it wasn't Australia, it wasn't Hawaii, it wasn't the United States, it was West Africa. That is the first place that surfing was ever found, because we are water people. We belong in the water, we belong outside, and we have been taught that we don't, and it's a lie. And we can't allow one another to tear ourselves down and to, succumb to this lie. We are so much more than what we're told.
I 100% agree. I'm saying, you walk outside right now, buy you a longboard and ride it. I thought I'd be the worst longboarder, the worst snowboarder ever. I tried both those out and loved them. I'm telling you, Black people might just be good at board sports. We just got to get in them. You see every sport we're in, we dominated them. Figure skating. If hockey rinks were heated, we'd be even good at those too. So I'm telling people, just try these kind of things and see it if that's what you're interested in. So for me, my mom and my dad were two of the biggest influences in my life because they supported me so much with my career. Like, I always liked sharks and critters and stuff and animals. I wanted a house full of animals and lizards and snakes and stuff. And my mom was never like, oh, that's some white people stuff, whatever. She was like, okay, that's cool. You like that, okay? And she would buy me shark books. I probably had 50, 60, 70 different shark books my mom got from different places. And my dad would find Shark Week stuff and, used to record stuff. We didn't have Hulu and all that stuff back then. But we record stuff, and I'm watching Shark Week with him, and I'm like, man, that's cool. And I'm saying the shark names, and he's like, man, and I'm like 7 years old, and he's like, man, you know what that is? You know what that is? And, for me, it was awesome. I loved that. I loved river monsters, all this kind of stuff. And my parents always supported me with it, and it was so important to me. And I feel like a lot of people don't get to the place I am now is because people shoot them down early on to say, hey, that's not for you. We don't do that. So they never let their curiosity grow. So tell me, how did people receive you wanting to do water stuff? Like, how did your family react? How did your friends react? What was the general reception to you and your interests?
My parents were very supportive of it. My grandparents were definitely like, that's the white people stuff. What are you doing? Kind of like trying to make fun of me, which was interesting. But honestly, generally, I was told that I didn't belong pretty much everywhere. Even like one time I was surfing in Southern California and somebody called me the N-word in the water, which, of course, I was the only Black person, the only woman as well in the lineup. So it definitely feels a little bit isolating sometimes. And I don't think that we should have to subject ourselves to these negative environments just so that we can enjoy things like water. But that's why we're doing the work that we're doing. We're doing this work so that we're able to feel very comfortable, and that people that are going to try it for the first time have the opportunity to go in and feel comfortable and that they belong there because they do. But I guess back to your question about how I felt, I felt supported by my parents, but honestly, being supported by anybody else, I didn't really feel supported at all. And, I love my dad so much, but even becoming an environmental studies major at UCSB, I was going into UCSB to study the environment, and he thought that was funny. And I was a little bit upset about that. And then when he saw what I was doing and how I was making a difference and the money that I was making and all of those things, he began to respect it more. And I just think that people need to allow you to do what you're passionate about. Don't shoot somebody down just because you don't see their vision. If they see it and they believe it'll happen, it'll happen. So don't convince them that it won't.
I love that. I love that so much because it's just, that's how I feel about my career, especially. It's just very much, let me do my thing. Let me roll with it. Let me see what I can do. And, I know a lot of people feel like this, is that they would rather fall flat on their face and fail at something that they wanted to try than be successful at something that someone suggested for them. It's a lot better to just see it through. And some people don't want to do it. They want to do what's safe. But I'm saying go for what's interesting to you because, like I said, you get to support, especially like with science and with STEM in particular. That's what we're talking about. But you get the support. People will give you support for being underrepresented. They want more people to be in marine science, especially Black people and people of color. We just don't know about these things. That's part of the reason I'm having this show, is so that I can tell people about these opportunities like the NSF RUs and different things like that. But they give you the resources and things to get further in this career, to get to the place that I'm at and Jada and that my future guests are at. And it's just, we got to take these resources, and that for Black people, we like to think, oh, we don't want a handout. We don't want a handout. Every other person and every other color is taking a handout. They're taking it, and for them, they use it as a resource. Why are we too good for your resources and using what we got to do? It's not a handout. We're getting above because we need help to get above, and there's nothing wrong with that. So use the different things that people are giving us. It's not a handout. It's help, and help is always a good thing. And so, Jada, our last question before we get off is, what kind of legacy do you want to leave for like your ancestors, your children? What do you want people to see and look at when they search up Jada Alexander on Google in 40 years? It's a loaded question, I know.
I want to break the stereotype. I want people to, 40 years from now, I want a little Black girl to think that she can surf, and that's open to her. I want her to think that she can, go snowboarding. I want her to be able to do all of these things that right now a lot of Black girls don't think that they're able to do. I want her to think that she's beautiful. And so honestly, I just think that I want to use my experience to uplift those around me and those that come after me, because I don't think it's a mistake that all of these things happened. I don't think it's a mistake that I experienced discrimination and depression and all these hardships. It honestly gives me a lot of context that I can support other people. And that's what makes me so happy. So honestly, I would love to continue to uplift people and make them feel like they belong, because when people feel like they belong, they're truly able to step into their passion and what they're good at. If people are told they can't do something, they aren't worth something, we are shortchanging so many people and society itself. So I guess in a nutshell, my passion is to break the stereotype and redefine what it means to be a Black person in the outdoors.
Wow. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jada. So that was our guest, Jada Alexander. You can find her on Instagram at Jada22Alexander. One more time, at Jada22Alexander. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm really glad you came out all the way from California to come to our little show on our inaugural episode.
Thank you so much. This was so wonderful. I am very excited to see what happens with Black Nerds Matter after this.
Yeah, so WMNF brought you out here. Who brought you out here, Jada? Who was that?
Who brought me out here?
Who brought you out here? What radio station are we in?
WMNF.
Okay, one more time.
WMNF.
Who brought you here for the show?
You know, WMNF.
Okay, sweet. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you all for tuning into another episode of Black Nerds Matter. None of this is possible without you, our listeners. A special thank goes out to our music team. On guitar is Graham Hempstead, who can be found with his name on any of your favorite streaming platforms, and our sound engineer, Brian, who can be found on TikTok at brian.tyler.music. Thanks, everyone, for listening.